Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into status today, or SNT, as it's known in the crypto world.
It's a cryptocurrency that's really been making some noise lately.
It has, and we're going to figure out why. We've got research reports, market trends, and even long-term predictions going all the way to 2053.
That's right. We're talking about the really long game here.
Exactly. Our mission today is to help you understand the potential of SNT. What could its future value be, and what factors are going to influence it?
We want to give you the knowledge to make your own informed decisions.
Exactly. We're not giving financial advice, but we are going to arm you with information.
So let's start with where SNT stands right now.
Okay, so as we're recording this, SNT is trading at 0.0358 ASIN.
And its 24-hour trading volume is pretty impressive.
It is. It's sitting at 26,567,189 cents. And right now it holds the #1 spot for market cap.
Which is definitely something to take note of.
Absolutely. But here's what really caught my eye. SNT has seen some pretty incredible growth in recent years. We're talking a 48% jump in just the last year alone.
Yeah, that's impressive, but hold on, because it gets even better. Over the past 3 years, it's skyrocketed by 136%.
Wow, 136% in 3 years. That's the kind of growth that makes you sit up and pay attention.
It definitely does. But it's important to remember that the crypto market is full of surprises. What goes up can come down just as quickly.
True. So let's take a look at what the near future might hold for SNT. Our sources have some predictions for the next 10 months, and things get pretty interesting.
Yeah, they do. Starting with December 2024, S&T could potentially rise to 0.03422.
Okay, a potential climb. But I'm seeing a note here about some resistance.
Right, there's potential resistance around its all-time high, which is 0.59322. So whether S&T breaks through that ceiling is a big question mark.
A hurdle to clear.
Got it.
What about January 2025?
Buckle up, because January is looking pretty volatile. The predictions show prices swinging between 0.03182 and 0.03771.
Whoa, a potential swing in either direction. So there's risk involved, but I guess that also means opportunity.
Exactly. For those who are comfortable with a bit more risk, this kind of volatility could be a chance to make some strategic moves.
All right.
Think about strategies like swing trading, trying to ride those short-term price waves.
High risk, high reward.
Got it.
And for the more cautious investor.
If you're not into riding those big swings, dollar cost averaging could be a good approach. That's basically investing small amounts regularly to help even out the ups and downs.
Okay, spread the risk. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, February 2025, what's in store?
Well, February is showing a potential drop. A pretty significant one, actually. Prices could fall as low as 0.00288 rate.
Whoa, hold on. That's a huge difference from the potential highs we were just talking about. What could cause such a dramatic shift?
It's hard to pinpoint one specific cause. The crypto market is influenced by so many different factors. Regulatory news can have a big impact. Negative sentiment can send prices tumbling. And even the overall economic climate can play a role.
So many moving parts. It's impossible to predict exactly what might trigger a drop like that.
Exactly, but it's a good reminder that crypto investing isn't for the faint of heart. You have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Definitely. So we've got a potential dip in February. What about the rest of the year? Does S&T recover?
Well, the predictions after February suggest a general upward trend for S&T, although there might be a few more dips along the way.
Okay, so a bit of a rebound after that February plunge, and by September 2025.
It could potentially reach around 0.03102.
Okay, so that gives us a snapshot of the short-term outlook. But what about the long game? What are these predictions saying about S&T's value years down the line?
Now that's where things get really interesting. The predictions for the period between 2024 and 2033 are showing some really promising potential for growth.
All right, I'm intrigued. What kind of numbers are we looking at here?
Well, for 2025, the predictions suggest S&T could hit 0.0277878. That's already higher than its current price.
Okay, so despite the potential dips along the way, the overall trend seems to be positive.
Absolutely. And it gets even better. For 2026, the prediction is that S&T could reach 0.06369.
Okay, now those are some impressive numbers, especially considering that's significantly higher than the predictions for the previous year. It seems like there's a lot of optimism about S&T's potential for growth.
There is, but let's be realistic. Predicting that far into the future is a tricky business.
That's true. A lot can happen in a decade. Who knows what the world will look like by then, let alone the crypto market?
Right. New technologies might emerge. Regulations could change. The way we even think about money could be completely different.
So while these long-term predictions are exciting, it's important to remember that they're not set in stone.
Exactly. They're possibilities, not guarantees.
All right, so we've talked about the short-term predictions, the long-term outlook.
Okay.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's the technical analysis saying about SNT's potential?
Well, the overall rating from the technical analysis is actually quite bullish.
Bullish? Okay. But I'm seeing a note here about some bearish signals as well. How does that work? Is it bullish or bearish?
It might seem counterintuitive, but different technical indicators can sometimes paint different pictures.
So how do we decipher all of that?
That's where the expertise of a good analyst comes in. They take all of those signals, the context, the different indicators, and they come up with an overall assessment.
So in this case, even though there are some bearish signals, the bullish ones are stronger.
That's what the analysis suggests, leading to that overall bullish rating.
Okay, so it's more nuanced than just looking at one indicator and making a decision.
Yeah.
You really have to consider the big picture.
Absolutely. It's like putting together a puzzle. You need all the pieces to see the complete image.
All right, so we've got this bullish rating, but what are the specific indicators saying? Let's break it down.
Well, one of the key aspects of technical analysis is looking at moving averages. These are basically lines on a chart that smooth out price data to help us identify trends.
Okay, I've heard of moving averages, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure how they work.
Think of it this way. Let's say you're trying to figure out if S&T's price is generally going up or down. You could look at the daily changes, but those can be all over the place, right? Moving averages help smooth things out by giving you the average price over a longer period, like 50 days or 200 days.
So it's like getting the average temperature for the month instead of just focusing on one really hot or cold day.
Yeah.
It gives you a better sense of the overall trend.
Exactly. And here's where things get interesting. With S&T right now, the current price is actually below all the key moving averages we're looking at.
Wait, so if the price is below the average, wouldn't that be a bearish signal?
You would think so, right? But in this case, some analysts see it as a potential sign that S&T might be undervalued. It's like finding a hidden treasure that hasn't been discovered yet.
Okay, a hidden gem in the crypto world. But of course, not everyone agrees on that interpretation.
Right. Some analysts are more cautious. They see it as a potential warning sign that prices might drop even further.
So even the experts don't always agree. It seems like there's room for different perspectives in technical analysis.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important to consider different viewpoints and not just rely on one single indicator.
Okay, so we've got these moving averages suggesting a potential upswing. But what about other indicators? I know our sources mention things like momentum indicators, trend indicators, and oscillators. What are those all about?
Think of them like different tools in a toolbox, each designed for a specific purpose. Momentum indicators tell us how strong the price movement is and how fast it's happening. Are we seeing a sudden spike, a gradual climb, or a slow and steady decline?
Okay, momentum. Got it. What about trend indicators?
Those help us confirm the direction of the price movement. Is it going up, down, or just moving sideways?
So basically confirming the trend.
Exactly. And then we've got oscillators, which are great for spotting overbought or oversold conditions. If the price has been moving up really quickly for a while, an oscillator might signal that it's due for a correction and vice versa.
Interesting. So it's all about using these different tools to get a clearer picture of where S&T might be headed.
Exactly. The more information we have, the better.
Okay. I'm feeling a little more confident in my technical analysis skills now. But there's something else I wanted to ask about. This ORIMA model. Honestly, it sounds a bit intimidating.
Yeah, it does have a kind of complicated name, doesn't it? But don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds.
Well, our source actually included the formula for the ORIMA model. And to be honest, it looks like something you'd see in a rocket science textbook.
Ha ha ha. It can look a bit daunting at first glance, but I promise we can break it down and make it understandable.
I hope so, because I'm really curious about how this model works.
It's actually a statistical approach that's used for forecasting. It uses past data to identify patterns and then tries to predict future values based on those patterns.
So basically looking back at S&T's price history to try to figure out where it's going next.
You got it. And the ORIMA model can be a really powerful tool for this type of analysis. But to really grasp how it works, we need to dive into that formula a little bit.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready to unravel the mysteries of the ORIMA model.
Perfect. Let's take a closer look and see what insights it can offer about S&T's future price movements. So, the ORIMA model has got these 3 key parameters. Think of them like settings that we adjust to fine-tune the model.
Okay, settings. Got it. And what are these parameters called?
They're represented by the letters P, D, and Q.
P, D, and Q. What do those stand for?
So P stands for the number of past observations that the model takes into account. It's like the model's memory, how far back it looks.
The model's memory. Okay. What about D?
D is for the degree of differencing.
Differencing.
Yeah. It sounds a bit complicated, but basically it's about how many times we subtract the previous day's price from today's price to get a consistent pattern.
Okay, so making sure the model is looking at consistent changes in price and Q.
Q, that refers to the number of past errors in prediction that the model considers.
So it's like the model is actually learning from its mistakes, getting smarter each time.
Exactly. By adjusting those parameters, PD and Q, the aroma model can pick up on subtle patterns and trends that we might miss just by looking at the raw data.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be useful. But how do we actually apply this model to SNT? Do we just plug in some numbers and get a prediction?
It would be nice if it were that simple. But there's a bit more to it. First, we need a good chunk of historical price data for SNT. The more, the better.
Makes sense. We need to give the model something to work with.
Exactly. Then we need to figure out the best values for PD and Q. That involves some statistical analysis to make sure the model accurately reflects how SNT's price has behaved in the past.
Okay, so it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing. It sounds like there's a lot of human expertise involved in setting up the model and making sure it's working properly.
Absolutely. The AROMA model is a powerful tool, but it's not magic. You need someone who knows what they're doing to set it up, interpret the results, and understand its limitations.
Okay, so back to our listener. Why should they care about this AROMA model? What's the takeaway for them?
Well, understanding the AROMA model gives you a peek behind the curtain. It helps you understand how some of these price predictions are being made. It's not about blindly trusting the model's output, but about recognizing that there are sophisticated techniques being used to try to anticipate where the market might go.
So it's a tool to be aware of, one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. The AROMA model can offer valuable insights, but it's not the be-all and end-all. You always have to do your own research, consider different perspectives, and remember that the crypto market is inherently unpredictable.
Right, there are no guarantees. Okay, we've talked about the AROMA model, but I want to circle back to the technical analysis of status. You said the overall rating was bullish, even though there were some bearish signals. Can we break that down a bit more?
Sure. Remember, technical analysis is all about charts and indicators, those tools that help us try to predict future price movements. And as we've seen, different indicators can sometimes tell different stories.
Right, like those moving averages we were discussing.
Exactly. With SNT, some indicators like those moving averages are hinting that the price might be ready to move upwards. But then we have other indicators flashing bearish signals.
So how do we make sense of these mixed messages? How do we know which indicators to pay more attention to?
That's where the skill of the analyst really comes in. They have to weigh the evidence, consider the context, and make a judgment call. In this case, the analysis we're looking at suggests that those bullish signals outweigh the bearish ones,
leading to that overall bullish rating.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's more than just following the indicators blindly.
Yeah.
You need someone who can interpret them and see the bigger picture.
You got it. There's an art to technical analysis as well as a science.
It's definitely more complex than I realized. But let's switch gears again and go back to those long-term price predictions for SNT.
Right.
Remember, we're looking all the way out to 2033.
We are. It's time to gaze into the crystal ball and see what the future might hold for SNT.
All right, let's do it. What do those long-term predictions have in store for us?
We'll remember those promising figures we saw for 2025 and 2026. While the predictions for the years after that suggest that the upward trend might continue.
Okay, so you're talking about the period from 2027 to 2033. What kind of numbers are we looking at for those years?
The predictions show some variation, which is to be expected when we're looking so far into the future, but overall the trend remains positive.
So even with some potential bumps in the road, it sounds like SNT could be headed for some significant gains over the next decade.
That's what the predictions suggest. And if we zero in on the years 2031 to 2033, the data suggests that SNT could potentially reach 0.07782 today.
Wow, now that would be a pretty impressive return for those who invested early on. But honestly, how much confidence can we really have in these long-term predictions? It seems like so much could change between now and then.
You're right to be cautious. Predicting the future, especially in a field as dynamic as cryptocurrency, is inherently uncertain. There are so many factors that could come into play.
Like what?
Oh, we've got technological advancements, regulatory changes, shifts in investor sentiment, global economic events. Any one of these could throw a wrench in even the most carefully constructed prediction.
So while it's exciting to think about SNT hitting those kinds of prices, it's important to keep in mind that these are projections, not guarantees.
Exactly. It's crucial to approach those long-term predictions with a healthy dose of skepticism.
And to always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Couldn't agree more.
Speaking of research, I want to revisit something we talked about earlier. The potential impact of mass blockchain adoption on SNT's value. What if that adoption happens faster than anyone anticipates? Could that send SNT's price skyrocketing?
That's a really intriguing question and one that a lot of analysts are thinking about. If blockchain technology truly becomes as widely used as some predict, the demand for cryptocurrencies like SNT could absolutely surge. And that could potentially drive prices up in ways we can't even imagine right now.
So it's a bit of a wild card. This possibility of widespread blockchain adoption adds another layer of both uncertainty and excitement to the future of SNT.
Absolutely. And it really highlights why it's so vital to stay informed and be flexible in the world of crypto. Things are constantly evolving, and those who can adapt and stay ahead of the curve will be the ones who benefit the most.
Well said. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. We've covered the current state of SNT, analyzed those short-term and long-term price predictions, delved into the world of technical analysis, and even tackled the ARIMA model.
It's been quite a journey exploring the potential of SNT and all the factors that could shape its future.
And as always, folks, remember that we're not financial advisors. Our aim is to empower you with information, not to tell you what to do with your money.
Always do your own thorough research, consider multiple perspectives, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
The crypto world is full of possibilities, but it's also full of risks. By staying informed and making smart choices, you can increase your chances of success in this exciting and ever-changing market.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of status. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.
Those were some pretty impressive numbers, right?
Yeah, those figures for 2025 and 2026 were definitely eye-catching. But what about after that? Do the predictions suggest that growth will continue?
Well, the predictions for the years beyond that are a bit more spread out, which makes sense when you think about how far into the future we're looking. But yeah, the general trend still seems to be pointing upwards.
So we're talking about 2027 to 2033. What kind of price range are we looking at for those years?
It varies a bit. But if we focus specifically on the years 2031 to 2033, the predictions indicate that SNT could potentially reach 0.077823.
Wow, that would be a pretty incredible return for anyone who got in early on.
It would. But let's be realistic here. Predicting anything that far into the future is always going to be a gamble, especially in the crypto world.
Right, there are just so many unknowns.
Yeah,
so much could change between now and then.
Exactly. Technology could advance in ways we can't even imagine right now. Regulations could shift dramatically. Investor sentiment is always fickle, and who knows what's going to happen in the global economy.
So while those long-term predictions are definitely exciting, it's important to remember that they're not guarantees.
Exactly. They're just possibilities. And it's crucial to approach them with a healthy dose of skepticism.
And of course, always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely. Don't just take our word for it. Dig in and see what you find.
Speaking of research, I wanted to circle back to something we talked about earlier. The potential impact of mass blockchain adoption on SNT's value. What if that happens sooner than we expect? Could that really send SNT's price through the roof?
That's a fascinating question, and it's one that's on a lot of people's minds right now. If blockchain technology does become as widely used as some experts predict, the demand for cryptocurrencies like SNT could explode. And yeah, that could definitely drive prices up to levels we can't even fathom right now.
So it's like this big unknown. This possibility of widespread blockchain adoption adds another layer of both excitement and uncertainty to the future of SNT.
It does, and it underscores why it's so important to stay informed and adaptable when it comes to cryptocurrency. The landscape is constantly changing. Those who can anticipate those changes and navigate them effectively are the ones who are going to come out on top.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. From the current state of SNT to those short-term and long-term price predictions, we even tackled the ARIMA model and the intricacies of technical analysis.
It's been a great deep dive, exploring the potential of SNT and all the factors that could shape its future.
And to our listeners, remember, we're not financial advisors. Our goal is to provide you with information and insights so you can make your own informed decisions.
Do your own research, consider different perspectives, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
The crypto world is full of possibilities, but it's also full of risks. By staying informed and making smart choices, you can increase your chances of success in this exciting and ever-evolving market. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of status. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.